The victim impact statement from Kaylee Goncalves today was the most powerful and brutal I've ever seen. I've been reeling ever since watching it, and I had to come on and talk to you about it. If you've ever been in that situation before, you know that a moment like that is something you think about a lot before it happens, and the magnitude of that moment just keeps growing and growing as the day approaches and as the hour approaches. I've kind of been in that situation before on a much, much smaller scale, but I at least have some idea of what it feels like. For her to stare down that moment like that, for her to confront it, was really something to watch. Obviously, her strategy for the speech was brilliant. You know, I don't fault any of the other victim impact statements for expressing, grief and talking about the wonderful people that we lost. But Alivea took a different course. And she talked about this, I think, about a day ago with Brian Enton from News Nation. She said that she wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of hearing what he caused. So instead, she was going to go another route and focus on him. That's exactly what she did. She's a woman of her word. She planned this meticulously. She executed it flawlessly. She knew exactly what she wanted to do, and she went in there and did it. And it was a big moment in her life, and she rose to the occasion. And I just have so much respect for her for doing that. I want you to know that I transcribed the entire speech and I added it to a Google Doc. It's public, it's free, you can go look at it. I want this speech to be seen and studied and thought about long after today. So that is linked in the description if you'd like to check it out. I just wanted to talk about a couple of the moments from today, a couple of the highlights from the speech. And I definitely want to talk about the last line. It's not all about the swear. I think there's something more there. And I think it's maybe the most profound part of the speech. So let's chat about that. But first, I want to talk about the moment where she declared war. She opened up and she talked about Kaylee and she talked about Maddie. But there was a moment almost 4 minutes in where she declared war, and it went something like this. I won't stand here and give you what you want. I won't offer you tears. I won't offer you trembling. Disappointments like you thrive on pain, on fear, and on the illusion of power, and I won't feed your beast. That for me was the line in the sand. That's the turning point where she aimed her weapons at the killer. And boy, we were off and running after that. What follows is one of the most brutal beatings, dressings down I have ever seen. She turned this killer into a shriveled up, shrunken down raisin. I've never seen anything like it. He looked pathetic and she looked powerful. It was absolutely incredible how she turned the tables. One of the first moves she made was to ask him questions that he had posted on a forum. I think it was years prior. And he asked these very questions, like supposedly as part of his education and as part of some assignment. And she turned this on him. And I love that she did this because to him, this is familiar language. And so it's going to get his attention. It's going to make him feel something. And she showed him that she wasn't afraid to step into his world and that she had stepped into his world. She was quite literally inside his head already in this moment because I know he didn't expect this. And the element of surprise is always strategically advantageous. So she asked him things like, how was your life right before you murdered my sisters? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your apartment? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this time. These are maybe word for word the questions that he had asked on some forum, I believe it was. She pivots off of this with some of the questions to diminish him and kind of chip away at his narcissism and ego. How does it feel to know the only thing you failed more miserably at than being a murderer is trying to be a rapper? Did you recently start shaving or manually pulling out your eyebrows? So she's getting really personal here, digging in at his insecurities and his flaws, things that he struggles with. And then she hits him with a blow. I was so glad she did this because he planned this crime for so long and he thought he had planned the perfect crime. So this is part of his God complex, and she just absolutely dismantles that. Did you truly think your Amazon purchase was untraceable because you used a gift card? Please describe in detail the level of anxiety you must have felt when you heard the Bearcat pull up to your family home on December 30th, 2022. So she's really shining a light on him, which he does not like. And she's also exposing his mistakes and the moment law enforcement came for him when it was pretty much officially over. He had failed. So this had to have gotten to him. And that was her goal. She was really smart to realize that this is the only thing he really cares about. So that's what she was going to go after. Another part of this speech I loved is when she says, if you're so powerful, then why are you still hiding, defendant? And for me, when I was looking at the two of them standing across from each other in the courtroom, I really saw good versus evil. Evil can have a profound impact. We know that, one bad apple spoiling the bunch, but it isn't real power because it has to hide. It has to sneak around. It can't be exposed in the light, and it has to strike people when they're in their most vulnerable state. Because all of those things are true because it isn't real power. It's weakness. It's cowardice. Alivea was real power today. She was in the light. She was her true self. And she could be seen by everybody as she struck him down. And she says that in her speech. She says, you exposed yourself as the coward you are. You didn't create devastation. You revealed it in yourself. And I love this question. If you're so powerful, then why are you still hiding, defendant? There are so many highlights in this speech. And you can go watch it, and I know every YouTuber and their mother is talking about this, so there's plenty of content out there. I won't go over this exhaustively, but she's got a lot of devastating blows in here. But just a couple of things I wanted to mention. Let's just talk about the end, and then I want to talk about Olivia's message to all of us. First of all, the end. She says, you want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. And remember, the killer definitely had an issue with women. She says, if you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your fucking ass. Now, the first reason I love this line, obviously, is because it made me feel like I wanted to stand up and applaud, and people actually did applaud in the courtroom. So that was one feeling I got from this. But I kept thinking about this line more and more. It's the only time she swears in the whole thing. And just my personal opinion, but I think that this speech was incredibly well researched. There's a deep strategy here because she wanted it to be effective. She wanted to land devastating blows to this peanut and, strike him down. And she did that. And I think she carried that right into the last line. I think she waited to swear, and I think it shows how she truly won. Let me explain. You're not really technically supposed to address the defendant directly. So I think we were walking a line with this speech the entire time. I mean, of course, the judge is going to allow it, but I think if she maybe pushed too far, it might have forced the judge to intervene, or I'm not exactly sure how it works, but maybe a lawyer could have intervened, interrupted her flow or something like that. And I think she waited to drop that F-bomb at the end when no one could really do anything about it. And that was kind of like the cherry on top. Her planning was perfect, and her execution was perfect. And she dropped that last bomb and walked off, and the whole thing was a huge success. She accomplished what she wanted to accomplish. And to me, that's the biggest middle finger you could have stuck into this guy's face, because that's what he wanted. He thought he had the perfect plan. He thought he pulled it off, thought he was smarter than everyone, thought he had everything figured out, and he didn't. He got caught, and now he's sitting in a chair in an orange jumpsuit watching Kaylee's sister pull off her perfect plan and execute it on him. That to me is what makes this truly masterful. I hope that wasn't lost on the killer, because if he did see that, if he did understand that that's what happened, he will be writhing. That will drive him absolutely crazy. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is Alivea's message to us, because the other thing she talked about in the interview with Brian Enton is, and she said it in the speech too, the killer loves to hear his name mentioned by other people. That may be one of the ways that he feels like more than nothing, like he exists. And so we shouldn't give that satisfaction to him. And I want to honor that. I've been careful not to say his name in this video. I never will speak his name, and that is upon the direction of Alivea. So I'd encourage you to do the same. I appreciate you stopping by and, spending some time with me on this. I've been reeling since I heard the speech, and I just had to get on and talk to you about it. If you've got thoughts, comments, I would love to read them. So definitely leave one, and I'll see you in the next video.